If I could get Commissioner Powell to do our invocation, please.
Pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity of being here tonight. Thank you for the beautiful day and all the signs of your might and power. And Father, we pray for your guidance as we conduct business of the county here tonight. Give us insight and help us to make good decisions. And Father, we pray most earnestly for the people in Las Vegas that are undergoing such pain and problems at this point in time. We pray for them all and those that are recovering for their recovery. And we lift their prayers to you. Amen.
Amen. Get Commissioner Pereira to do the pledge, please.
Please stand and recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, is there any discussion or adjustments of the agenda? We need to add the sale of surplus property to the agenda.
Where?
At the very end, item number 17. And also, I'd like to request that we lower the flags in response to the shooting out in Las Vegas and be consistent with what the state and federal guidelines are surrounding that. If it's okay with the other commissioners.
You add that to the agenda?
Well, I was just going to ask that that be a request from the commissioners, and as we approve the agenda, if it would be okay to approve that we do that. Would that be okay?
So move as amended.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Next on the agenda is the proclamation for Race Unity Week. We have some folks here in the audience. If you would come forward, please, as I read the proclamation. Proclamation Race Unity Week. Whereas Person County is now in the midst of celebrating its 225th year of existence, and whereas during those 225 years, Person County has been the home of a variety of races, ethnicities, cultures, and religions, and whereas the contributions of the people from each and every race, ethnicity, culture, and religion have played a significant role in making Person County a culturally rich and economically vibrant community, and whereas it is important that we recognize that unity of the community is achieved through the appreciation for and celebration of our diversity. And whereas appreciation and celebration of diversity encourages understanding, acceptance, and peaceful coexistence among our citizens. And whereas it is to the benefit of all citizens of the county that we live peacefully together, now therefore the Person County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims that the period from October the 8th, 2017 through October the 15th, 2017 shall be designated as Race Unity Week in Person County, adopted this day, the second day of October, 2017. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. And if anyone would like to say anything?
Well, first of all, we would just like to say thank you to the board for recognizing the goals and objectives of what we're trying to do. We are ordinary citizens of this community, and as such, care and love about its growth and progress. And we recognize that happens when we appreciate the diversity of the community, and it's rich in diversity, and as stated in your proclamation. This group started a little over a year and a half ago with the sole purpose of doing that, to allow a space for people who are from different backgrounds, ethnicities, to come together and talk about and grow from this. Sometimes there were pains, but the important thing is to recognize each other the kinds of things that we've experienced, and then use those as a means to progress and to help our community. And we can only do that through wonderful acts of service. So that's our goal, to continue to do that in whichever way possible. With the religious community, in education, in the political arena, everyone has something to offer. And so that's what this is all about. And during this week of the 8th through the 15th, is a time to kind of highlight some of those things that the community is doing. The children are doing essays and paintings, and all of the themes is devoted towards race unity. So we know that that's a very key thing to help us, because it can be very divisive. It has historically, but the only way that can make it change is for us to work together towards bringing about that change. So we thank you, and that you recognize that that's important, and we appreciate being with you this evening and for this declaration. And we hope that as many of you as possible will come to the culmination ceremony, which will be on the 15th of October.
Would you all please identify yourself for the record?
My name is Charles Bullock.
I'm Ronnie Donovan.
Rachel Obie Winstead Warren.
Maxine Stonebreaker Gallagher.
Thank you all very much. Go right ahead.
I'm sorry. We're also looking forward to you all coming across the street to Hug Sansbury on Sunday the 8th at 5 o'clock for a potluck. Bring a dish, bring a chair, and we're going to have a good time. And on Thursday, the 12th of October, we will, at 7 o'clock, we will be meeting and worshiping at Long Memorial United Methodist Church there. And so I want to see your faces in the place. And so I do have just a summary of the activities if you'd like those.
We'd be glad to take them.
Brenda goes first.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you all.
Nice to meet you.
Item number 2, public hearing for a request by Kevin Moore to add a distillery brewery to the Person County zoning ordinance. Appendix C of that. This is to open the duly advertised public hearing to consider a special use permit requested by Kevin Moore on behalf of the property owners Kevin and Kimberly Moore to operate a distillery or brewery on 9.84 acres located at 1890 Charlie Long Road in the residential zoning district.
Motion to open up public hearing.
There's a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, what's the pleasure of the board?
Aye.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Public hearing. This is a quasi-zoning decision whereby witnesses are to be sworn in and subject to cross-examine. No ex parte.
I think you're getting ahead of
I'm
yourself.
a little bit ahead of us.
I think so.
All right, go right
It
ahead.
should be on item number 2, which is a text amendment.
Thank you.
If I could get my PowerPoint presentation. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I would like to state for the record that all zoning ordinance and state statutes have been met for this public hearing. And just to give you a little background of how we are here this evening before you, the applicant, Kevin Moore, came to the planning office to discuss opening a distillery at his current winery. Staff and Kevin reviewed the zoning ordinance and realized that as it's written currently, it doesn't address his proposed use. So that is why he is here before you today with a text amendment. He is also requesting a special use permit concurrently with this text amendment. That is the next item on the agenda. So the applicant's proposed text is to Appendix D, the definition section of the zoning ordinance. The definitions are on the screen, so I will not read them for you, but there is a definition proposed for both distillery and brewery. Also, Appendix C, Table of Uses. The text amendment is proposed to add distillery/brewery as a special use in the R residential district and a permitted use in the RC district. The text amendment request serves to add 2 uses that are not currently in the zoning ordinance. In 2004, a similar text amendment was approved by the Board of Commissioners to allow a similar use, a winery, as a special use in the R district and as a permitted use in the RC district. The applicant is proposing the same regulations for the proposed distillery/brewery use. Planning staff supports TA 0117. The proposed text amendment allows a use very similar to one that already exists in the zoning ordinance in the same zoning districts. At the planning board meeting on September the 14th, 2017, the board voted 4-1 to approve the requested text amendment with 3 revisions. And that was under Appendix B, under the definition for brewery, for the definition to start off with a legal establishment. Under Appendix C, the board asked that the 2 uses be separated in the table of uses, so rather than having distillery/brewery, to actually list distillery as a use and brewery as a separate use. And lastly, under Appendix C, to allow both distilleries and breweries as a special use in the RC zoning district. Board member Derek Smith voted in opposition of the text amendment based on the 3rd revision. He supported allowing the distillery and the brewery uses as a permitted use in the RC district in order to be consistent with the current regulations for wineries in the county. The North Carolina General Statutes requires that when reviewing a text amendment, the board also include a statement as to whether the proposed text amendment is reasonable and consistent. Planning staff concludes that the proposed text amendment request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future planning goals of Person County. It is reasonable and in the public interest as it will provide clear regulations for distilleries and breweries in Person County. You could either include the statement of reasonableness in your motion or make a separate motion to include it. And if you have any questions of me at this time, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions of Ms. Hook? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board? Or we need to come out of,
No, we have public comments next.
do we have any public comment?
Yes, actually, Mr. Kevin Moore, the applicant, has signed up to speak in favor of this, unless he would like to see if there's any questions. Would you like to address the board?
Either way, I'll make myself available to answer any questions y'all may have about it.
No.
You're good.
The planning board approval or was what you all recommended to them, or
Yes.
and Derek's opposition?
The planning board had those 3 minor changes, and Derek was in favor of the 2, but on the 3rd change, he wanted distilleries and breweries to match what's in the ordinance for wineries, which would make them permitted in the RC district and special use in the R district. And the board felt that both districts needed to have public hearings and public input, so they recommended that it be a special use in both of the districts.
So wineries currently is a special use, is that correct?
It's a special use in the R district, not the RC.
Okay. I kind of see his point then. So you did separate the definition for brewery and distillery? Is
Yes,
that
and
correct?
that was originally proposed to have 2 separate definitions, and the planning board just wanted to see the uses separated in the table of uses, and I don't think Mr. Moore had any objection to
No.
having the uses separated, or even to the special use in either district.
So would I be correct in assuming, like, let's say something came uptown, like these microbreweries with beer, that would fit under brewery, not distillery?
Correct.
And has the city addressed theirs?
The
Have they
city does
addressed
have
this?
it in their ordinance.
Do they require a public hearing?
They have, it depends on the zoning district that it's in. I think some require a public hearing and others are by right.
Any further questions? Entertain a motion to come out of public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? What is the item number 3, in consideration to grant or deny the request for the text.
So given the request before us, is it being applied for as a brewery or as a distillery?
So at this time, I believe Mr. Moore plans on pursuing the distillery, and he may want to address that.
So, the logic was that 10 years ago, we came and y'all were gracious enough to grant us a permit to have a winery. And it's doing very well, and I think it's doing well for the county. In my wildest dreams, I never would have thought we'd have gotten into the distilling business. And that's actually our first adventure, is to get into the distilling business, because it really goes hand in hand with a winery. And so, you know, thinking ahead and saving ourselves some more trips down here to visit you nice people, we'll go ahead and apply for the brewery, because maybe 10 years from now, we maybe won't get in the brewing business. That's the only reason we put them both together, is to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and save some paperwork. But either way, separating it, I don't think I'd ever get into the brewing business, but we certainly would like to move forward on some distilling. We think we have a good market and an opportunity for that. Any other questions?
Item number 3, consideration to grant or deny a request for the text amendment by Kevin Moore to add distillery brewery to the Person County zoning ordinance Appendix C, table of uses, and also add definition distillery brewery to Appendix B, definitions. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
There's a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, public hearing special use permit request by Kevin Moore on behalf of the property owners, Kevin and Kimberly Moore, to operate a distillery brewery on 9.4 acres located at 1890 Charlie Long Road in the residential zoning district. Entertain a motion to open public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, before you open, I need a statement of reasonableness and consistency. The state has us, it's a requirement back on the first case.
Back in.
And there's one on your screen if you like that one.
Move we approve as requested.
Okay.
The statement of reasonableness and consistency.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Good. Now we'll get to item number 4. Entertain a motion to open public hearing.
So move.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Special use permit requested by Kevin Moore on behalf of the property owners, Kevin and Kimberly Moore, to operate a distillery brewery on 9.84 acres located at 1890 Charlie Long Road in the residential zoning district. Is there anyone here to speak?
Yes, and those that will offer testimony has to be sworn in at this time.
Okay.
So Mr. Kevin Moore and staff will be sworn in.
All right.
So if Mr. Moore
Please.
will come forward.
This is a quasi-judicial zoning decision whereby witnesses are to be sworn in and subject to cross-examination, no ex parte communication, and requires findings of facts. I state your name.
Kevin Moore.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will tell the truth,
I will tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth,
Nothing but the truth.
as testimony offered
This testimony offered
in the public hearing
in the public hearing
for a special use permit
for a special use permit
requested by Person County government
requested by Person County government
on behalf of the Person County Board of Commissioners,
on behalf of the Person County Board.
on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners.
Should this one read for him?
It should be number 4, item.
I'm on the wrong one.
Lori's on it
Just start
tonight.
with on behalf of Kevin Moore.
I don't have that one.
I do.
There you go.
Request by I got it here. Request by Kevin Moore on behalf of,
request by Kevin Moore on behalf of
property owners Kevin and Kimberly Moore
Property owners Kevin and Kimberly Moore
to operate a distillery brewery
to operate a distillery brewery
on 9.84 acres
on 9.84 acres
located at 1890 Charlie Long Road
located at 1890 Charlie Long Road
in a residential zoning district.
in the residential zoning district.
Right. Got through it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Stay up here.
Then you might get called. I could have my staff report, my PowerPoint. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'll go ahead and state again that all state statutes and zoning ordinance requirements have been met for this hearing. Waiting on PowerPoint.
Sorry, you were waiting on me earlier, so.
Here we go. Okay. The site for this request contains an existing, it's kind of hard for me to, contains an existing winery, Rock of Ages. Here's the building, along with its associated parking. And there is Charlie Long Road. The site plan that was submitted for the distillery and brewery is actually the same site plan that was utilized for the winery. There is an existing 50-foot wide access easement with a 20-foot wide paved drive coming into the site off of Charlie Long. No changes would be made to the site for the new use. The property is zoned R residential, and all of the parcels adjacent to it are also zoned R. The site is located in the Falls watershed. It is currently grandfathered because the development was approved prior to the adoption of the Falls watershed stormwater ordinance. Any future additions to the site would be required to adhere to the Falls watershed stormwater ordinance. The Person County Land Use Plan identifies the proposed site as rural residential, which includes uses such as agricultural and very limited commercial use. And the proposed use does meet some of the goals listed in Appendix O of the Land Use Plan. As I stated, the property is zoned R, and the applicant is requesting a special use permit for a distillery/brewery. The applicant has an existing winery on the site and plans on utilizing that existing building along with the associated parking for the proposed new use. No changes are proposed for the site other than adding the new uses. Planning staff recommends that if the board approve the request, the following conditions be placed on the special use permit. The applicant is to obtain all permits necessary from the County Planning and Zoning Department and Building Inspections Department, and the applicant is to obtain all permits necessary from the state of North Carolina. At the planning board meeting on September 14th, 2017, the board voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval of SUP 0317 to include staff's recommended conditions. The board will need to address the 4 findings of fact and whether this proposal is in keeping with the Person County Comprehensive Plan. And I have the 4 findings of fact listed on the screen for you. If you have any questions of me at this time, I'll try my best to answer them.
Are there any comments or concerns with the finding of fact? Hearing none. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. So, are there any, does Mr. Moore plan on speaking?
Only if you have questions.
Okay. So, are there any other questions or concerns for the special use permit?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to close public hearing. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So item number 5, consideration to grant or deny the request of Kevin Moore on behalf of the property owner for the special use permit.
Move for approval based on recommendations of planning board.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? All in favor of moving forward with the recommendations of the board, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, let's see if we can get this right this time. Public hearing item number 6, special use permit, SUP 0417, request by Person County government on behalf of the Person County Board of Commissioners for a 270-foot tall self-supporting telecommunications tower on 12.26 acres located at 7909 Burlington Road, tax map and parcel number A20-79 in the Rural Conservation Zoning District. And entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hear none. All in favor of entering into public hearing, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. This is to consider a special use permit, SUP 0417, request for Person County government on behalf of the Person County Board of Commissioners for a 270-foot tall self-supporting telecommunications tower on 12.26 acres located at 7909 Burlington Road, tax map and parcel number A20-79 in the Rural Conservation Zoning District. This is a quasi-judicial zoning decision whereby witnesses are to be sworn in and subject to cross-examine, no ex parte communication, and requires finding of fact. Is there anyone who came to speak on behalf?
Yes, we have staff, Sybil Tate, Caroline Darnell, Lori Oakley, Linda Long, and Mr. John Goin that need to be sworn in.
I got the right one this time. I'll go slow because I'm slow. I state your name.
Linda Long.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will tell the truth,
that I will tell the truth,
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
as testimony offered in public hearing
as testimony offered in public hearing
for a special use permit,
special use permit,
request by Person County government
request by Person County government
on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners
on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners
for a 270-foot tall,
for 207-foot tall,
self-supporting
self-supporting
telecommunications tower
telecommunications tower
on 12.26 acres
on 12.26 acres
located at 7909 Burlington Road
located at 7909 Burlington Road
in the Rural Conservation Zoning District.
in the Rural Conservation Zoning District.
Thank you.
You could have the PowerPoint presentation pulled up. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I believe many of you have met our newest planner on staff, Caroline Darnell. If you have not, this is the time to be introduced to her. Caroline came to us in July. She has been a great addition to staff, and this is her case, and she presented it to the planning board, so I've asked that she present it before you tonight. And while Caroline comes up here to present her case, I do want to pass out very briefly a revised abstract agenda and staff report, and Caroline will be touching on that in her report given to you.
So all state and zoning ordinance requirements have been met for this public hearing. The lot is located at 7909 Burlington Road, and it is in the RC district located here. And we have two site plans, one further out that shows the cellular tower in the northern corner of the lot, and then one zoomed in that shows the details of the site plan and the cellular tower. So currently, transmitting towers must be set back to their fall zone or the height of the tower. So this tower has been set back to its 100-foot fall zone from the edge of the property line. And we have a professional engineer has certified that the fall zone is 100 feet from the tower center line. So the Person County Land Use Plan identifies the proposed site as rural residential, and that includes limited commercial. And this meets the land use plan goals in the economic area. As I stated earlier, the property is zoned RC, and that is a special use permit in the table of permitted uses. Planning staff recommends that if the board approves the request, the following conditions be placed on the special use permit, and that is to obtain all permits necessary from the County Planning and Zoning Department and buildings inspections. Planning board recommendation. After reviewing the planning board minutes, staff determined that the initial recommendation that you got in your original packet was not the intent of the planning board, and so a revised recommendation is before you now. The revised recommendation is that the planning board voted unanimously to send the SUP 0417 to the Board of Commissioners, and that it met findings of fact 2, 3, and 4. They requested more information on finding number 1, which was also included in your packet. The additional information was gathered, and the NEPA survey determined that due to the elevation of the proposed antennas, that the area on the ground will not be exposed to radio frequencies outside of the FCC guidelines. So that was good. And then also the project engineer pointed out in CGA statutes that public safety for finding of fact number 1 cannot include the frequency emissions of wireless facilities. So that's something to keep in mind when determining the findings of fact, which are before you here. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have for me.
What's the footage off Highway 49 that the tower's going to be located from?
It's in the back of the lot. I don't know the exact, I think. Do you know the exact? Most of our details are with you.
Yes, there's it's not explicitly stated in the site plan, but it's more than 400 feet from the right of way.
Is that sufficient for a fall zone?
Yes, that's the farthest distance on the site plan. It's tucked in the rear corner of the property.
The fall zone is contained within the
Okay.
lot.
Any further questions of staff? Any more information? Hearing none?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Get the other people.
You get the other opposition?
Yeah, we got the
Oh,
public comments. Mr. John Goins,
Yes.
did you have a presentation or are you available for questions?
I'm the engineer of record for both of the tower site, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Ms. Long.
And Ms. Sybil Tate had signed up.
So if you all have any questions about this project, it's primarily for public safety, but if you have any questions about it, I'm here to answer this.
And then also we had Ms. Linda Long speaking in opposition to the project.
Okay, Ms. Long.
Commissioners, I'm really in shock when I read state statute that would, now the latest I found was 2013, and your hands are really going to be tied with this tower. And I just hope that you've read all the things the state statute is saying, because they're correct. There are certain things you cannot do and cannot say or control with state statutes with building this tower. So that's what I want to make sure that you have read and are aware of as you're going forward. I'm going to read this. Yes, I'm nervous, but I'm going to go ahead. Dear Commissioners, I know that what I say tonight may not change a thing, but what I want is to be a part of public record that concerns were raised. I am not against a cell tower, just the fact that it's going to be placed in such a populated area. If you look at the property map, you can see the area is surrounded by homes. The only area not occupied by homes is the backside of the ball field, which we own. We have been approached by several people that want to purchase land, and some of those people want to build homes. The 12 acres that make up the old Bushy Fork School grounds is unlike many of the other places that you have located towers, in that it is a residential area and the site is full of activity, especially on the weekends, using the various facilities. There are 2 ball fields that are widely used by many groups, a walking track, a gymnasium, and a community center that is rented by many families. On a weekend that 2 events are going on at the same time, it is hard to find a parking place. I understand that a tower is needed and that putting it on county property will save the county money. I also understand that after it is completed, the county is going to lease space on the tower to other companies to help with broadband communications and receive revenue from the rented space. My real concern is the combined effect of all the additional equipment that could be added to the tower. According to the 2013 state statute, you basically will lose your control of how and what other companies are going to use the tower for. I know that we need a tower, but how would you like to look out of your front door and see a 270-foot tower? Finally, down the road, if there is a problem, where does responsibility of this tower finally rest? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else signed up to speak?
That concludes the speakers for the night.
Any questions for any of the speakers? All right. Any more comments? Hear none, I'd entertain a motion to come out of public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, item number 7, consideration to grant or deny the request for a special use permit, SUP 0417 by Person County Government on behalf of the Board of Commissioners for a 270-foot tall self-supporting telecommunications tower on 12.26 acres located at 7909 Burlington Road in the Rural Conservation Zoning District. What is the pleasure of the board? Or will there be any discussions?
To address some of the things that Ms. Long brought up, the liability of it, if something was to happen, then it obviously will be the county as the owner of the tower. Would that be correct?
Yes, sir.
And if I look at the site plan, let's say of the Woodland Tower or the Bethel Hill Tower, I guess it would be similar in proximity as far as to public structures or public property, being those 2 are schools, as well as the park out in Bush Fork.
Yes, sir. I think if I understand your question.
I can speak to the proximity to any structures. They are in the rear of each property, and as mentioned before, the fall zone is within the parcel as well as it excludes any structures. So it's designed under the North Carolina Building Code to withstand any design wind event, and the fall zone is restricted down within the property. Yes.
Any further questions? It's the pleasure of the board.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve the special use permit. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Public hearing number 8, special use permit, SUP 05-17, request by Person County Government on behalf of the Bethel Hill Charter School, Inc. for a 300-foot tall self-supporting telecommunications tower on 35.48 acres located off of Claw Hall Road, tax map and parcel number A67-44 in the Rural Conservation District. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Do this again?
Mhm.
We have anybody in opposition who all needs?
We do not have anybody in opposition. We need Ms. Tate, Mr. Goins,
Okay, this is,
And staff to be sworn in.
okay, open and duly advertised public hearing to consider a special use permit, SUP 05-17, request by Person County Government on behalf of Bethel Wheel Charter School, Inc. for a 300-foot tall, self-supporting telecommunications tower on 35.48 acres located off Claude Hall Road, tax map and parcel number A67-44 in the Rural Conservation District. This is a quasi-judicial zoning decision whereby witnesses are to be sworn in and subject to cross-examination, no ex parte communication, and requires findings of fact. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will tell the whole truth, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as testimony offered in the public hearing for a special use permit request by Person County Government on behalf of Bethel Hill Charter School for a 300-foot tall, self-supporting telecommunications tower on 35.48 acres located off Claude Hall Road in the Rural Conservation Zoning District. Thank you. Ms. Oak?
We can have PowerPoint on the screen.
You're just garnering the whole meeting, aren't you?
Hi, how are you? I am. Mr. Chairman, since Caroline did such a fantastic job on the previous case, she will be presenting this case to you also. And as she comes up to present, I will be passing out one minor revision again to the staff report and abstract agenda.
Okay, again, all state and zoning ordinance requirements have been met for this public hearing. SUP 05-17 is a request for a 300-foot tall self-supporting telecommunications tower off of Claude Hall Road. Here is a visual of the lot, and it's also zoned RC. Here's an overview of the plan, and then the details of the tower. Similarly, for the other one, this tower will also be within its certified fall zone, so the fall zone will be within the lot. The comprehensive plan, this lot also resides in rural residential, which includes limited commercial. This also meets the land use plan goals of economic enhancement. Planning staff recommends that if the board approves this request, the following conditions be placed on the special use permit. The applicant is to obtain all permits necessary from the County Planning and Zoning Department as well as the Building Inspections Department. And again, the Planning Board recommendation was determined that the initial recommendation was not the intent of the Planning Board, and so the revised recommendation is in front of you. They voted 5-0 to send SUP 05-17 to the Board of Commissioners on that it met findings of fact 2, 3, and 4, and that more information be provided regarding finding number 1. That information was included in your packet, and like the previous tower, this also meets FCC guidelines. And again, the statute that states that public safety cannot include the radio frequency emissions of wireless facilities, and the finding of facts that will need to be determined in order to approve this. Any questions for me?
So where exactly is the tower going to be located on this parcel?
It's also in the back corner.
I see right there at the proposed telecommunications compound is
yeah. At the northeastern.
Northeast corner.
Yeah.
The school itself is on a different property.
To the south.
To the south, so it's way, way, way back behind a bunch of woods, that are behind the charter school. But the school also owns this large tract here.
Okay.
Any other questions?
If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. What is the pleasure of the board in consideration to grant or deny the special use permit for the 300-foot tall self-supporting communication tower off Claude Hall Road?
Move for approval.
There's a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Public hearing number 10, text amendment TA-02-17, request by planning staff on behalf of the Board of Commissioners to amend Appendix C, table of the permitted uses, and Appendix B, definition of Person County zoning and ordinance, adding solar energy system and definition. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
Moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is open. Do we have anyone offering public comment?
No one has signed up for this one.
Okay, we don't have to do the
No, we do not.
swearing. Good. Ms. Oak?
If I can have a PowerPoint presentation on the screen. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this item was actually brought to planning staff's attention this summer at the request of the Commissioners. And Caroline has presented 2 special use permit requests tonight, and she asked to present a text amendment to have some variety this evening. So she will be presenting the next case also for the text amendment for the solar farms.
Again, all state and zoning ordinance requirements have been met for this public hearing. This is text amendment 02-17 to amend Appendix C, a table of the permitted uses, and Appendix B, definitions, by adding solar energy system and a definition. The proposed text for the definition is before you on the screen. And the proposed text for Appendix C, table of uses, is also on the screen. The proposed text addresses decommissioning and bonding requirements. It does not change any existing requirements. Currently, solar farms are covered as a part of light industrial. This doesn't change anything about that. It's just adding a definition so that we have more guidelines for permits, and then also addresses the decommissioning and the bonding requirements.
I got a
Planning staff.
So we set it at 1.25 times the estimated decommissioning cost?
Yes. And that is similar to other counties in the area.
Okay.
My question was, under this proposed text, doesn't it say solar thermal systems and solar hot water systems?
Yes, so this
Well, the
term,
solar hot water system, would that apply if an individual had some type of solar hot water system on their residence?
no, this is more of an industrial type thing. Anything that doesn't change the footprint of the lot, of the residential lot, but it wouldn't apply to that. But if it does change the footprint, then it would. This would be
Okay, in
classified.
other words, if you put it on your roof, it wouldn't make any difference.
Right.
But if you went out there and started putting it out in the yard, then you got it. Okay, I got you.
Might use a lot of hot water.
Huh?
Might use a lot of hot water needed in the yard.
Like, get a permit then.
Planning staff supports text amendment 02-17. The proposed text amendment keeps all existing requirements in place and additionally requires a decommissioning plan and performance guarantee. At September 14th meeting of the planning board, the board voted unanimously 5-0 to send a favorable recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And the general statutes requires that when reviewing a text amendment, the board includes a statement of reasonableness and consistency, and one is before you on the screen. Any other questions?
What did you say about the decommissioning amount?
1.25% on the estimated decommissioning amount. So if when they come to us and make a proposal to put it in, they'll be required to say, we anticipate that the decommissioning would cost X amount of dollars, and we're gonna charge them 1.25%.
I thought you said 2 point something. I was like, I almost saw 1.25 in here, so I was making sure we were on the
That's
same page.
my dialect.
It's fine.
I might just heard the 2.5. I might not have been paying attention.
Any further questions? Are we required to accept this statement?
And it would be good to include it in your motion, or you can make a
Proposed
separate
text.
motion, yeah. For the reasonableness and consistency.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Item number 11, consideration to grant or deny the text amendment. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve the text amendment along with the statement.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve the text amendment and the statement. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Just on the 5-0 kind of night.
Public hearing, item number 12, text amendment TA-03-17, request by planning staff to amend section 60.6 of the Person County zoning ordinance by adding language to address the number of dwelling units allowed on each parcel. All in favor of opening the public hearing, please indicate by saying aye. Or is there a motion on the table to open public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All right. Ms. Oakley.
If I could have the PowerPoint presentation on the screen for this one. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I will be presenting this case before you, and all zoning ordinance and state statutes have been met for this public hearing. This text amendment request serves to clarify the number of principal dwellings allowed on each lot. And just to give you a brief kind of humorous background, we had an individual come in our office and ask about placing a manufactured home on the back of their property for their son. They did not want to, but their spouse was asking them to do that, and they asked me to write a letter stating that they could or could not have a manufactured home on the back of the property. In reviewing the zoning ordinance, we realized there was a lot of ambiguity and it was not clear, and so that is the sole reasoning behind this text amendment that's here before you tonight. In June of 2013, the zoning ordinance contained language that addressed one principal dwelling per parcel. It also contained language about accessory dwellings. When considering a text amendment to remove the limitations for the accessory dwellings, Section 60.6 was removed from the zoning ordinance. Since the removal in 2013, staff has relied on very vague language in the definition section to determine the number of dwellings allowed on a parcel of land. And again, staff is requesting this in order for the ordinance to clearly state how many principal dwellings you could have on a parcel of land. So there are two options. This is a little bit different. Two options on the table before you tonight, or on the screen before you tonight. Option A is under section 60.6 to basically place back the original language that states, unless otherwise specified by this ordinance, every principal building hereafter erected or moved shall be located on a separate lot. Option B, also under section 60.6, every building hereafter erected or moved shall be located on a lot, and in no case shall there be more than one principal building and its customary accessory buildings on a lot, except in the following cases: multifamily residential developments, including townhomes and planned building groups, and shopping centers as approved and permitted in accordance with this ordinance, and additional single-family detached dwellings when placed in such a way that all dwelling units meet all of the dimensional lot requirements of the applicable zoning district. I want to be clear, because option B has a lot of wording, option A not so much, that each option does allow for townhomes and apartments and shopping centers on a parcel of land. Option A includes a portion of that original language from 2013, and in order to read about townhomes and apartments and shopping centers, you basically have to go to those sections in the zoning ordinance to find out that they are allowed. Whereas option B was borrowed from another jurisdiction in the state and has it all right there in front of you. Staff recommends limiting the number of principal dwellings to 1 on each parcel, and therefore recommends option A. Previous staff members have been enforcing 1 principal dwelling per parcel since the adoption of the zoning ordinance in 1991. Neighboring counties also limit the number of principal dwellings per parcel to 1 principal dwelling unit. Accessory dwellings, such as garage apartments, will remain a permitted use in the RC zoning district and a conditional use in the R, the B1, and the B2 zoning districts. So I looked at some of the surrounding counties, and as I said, a lot of our neighbors allow only 1 principal dwelling per parcel of land. Vance County, Granville County, Warren County, Orange County, Franklin County, Johnston County, and I won't go through the whole list. It's on the screen in front of you and in the PowerPoint presentation at your desk. I believe Wake and Durham County also allows for 1. Their ordinances are about 600+ pages, so it was a little difficult finagling them, but best I could tell, they also allow 1. There were 3 counties that I came across that had different requirements. Montgomery County allows up to 3 dwellings. However, each dwelling unit must meet the minimum lot size and setback requirements of the ordinance. Harnett County allows a maximum of 2 dwellings per parcel of land, and each dwelling must meet the minimum lot size and setback requirements. And lastly, Chatham County allows for 1 principal dwelling per lot unless the second dwelling is a manufactured home and it meets the minimum lot size, or each single-family dwelling unit must have a minimum of 10 acres. If the board wishes to allow multiple principal dwellings per parcel, staff recommends the language contained in option B. State watershed regulations require a minimum land area of 40,000 square feet per dwelling that is served by a septic system and located in a state watershed. Option B will better align with the state requirements if the board chooses to allow multiple dwellings on a parcel of land.
Define principal dwelling. I haven't seen that definition.
Not in the...
So I'm scrolling over it. Because isn't this the thing, this the one we changed some years ago when we had issues with accessory buildings on lots?
This was the accessory dwelling text amendment, and I just want to make clear I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to enforce a number on accessory buildings.
Okay. That's why I want to see the definition, that's all.
So there is a definition. I actually just read it to the attorney earlier today. The main building or use of a zoning lot. Planning staff recommends approval of TA 0317. At the planning board meeting on September 14th, 2017, the board voted unanimously 5-0 to approve the requested text amendment TA-03-17 as presented in option A, which is 1 principal dwelling per parcel. Also, we do have a statement of reasonable inconsistency on the screen, or I do. Planning staff concludes that the text amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future planning goals of Person County. It is reasonable and in the public interest as it will provide clear and concise regulations in the zoning ordinance. And if you have any questions of me,
I got a question.
do my best.
So a winery, we heard earlier, could go on a residential lot or residential zone area, is that correct?
The winery, depending on whether it's RC or R, it would either require a special use permit or
I understand that, but it could go in a residential, something zoned residential.
Correct.
All right, so that would then be my principal building for that lot, right? Because I applied to have a winery, so the winery is the principal building for that. So let's say I wanted to all of a sudden put me a double wide somewhere on that lot. Per this, we could not, or
You cut the lot off. Cut off a separate lot.
And that's
Unless it-
essentially what staff has been telling people since 1991, that when you come in, if there was another use on the proposed property, if it was
But
of the
is that
same use.
Is that just another loop to, is that something I gotta go up here and just pay a surveyor to come out there and cut off a lot to do exactly what I
Pretty
want to
much.
do prior? So that's just one more hoop to kind of jump through, and I won't be able to do anyway. I just gotta go pay somebody to draw a line somewhere and then put that house there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
get another inspection or have your soil tested.
You're going to get that anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would. And again, that's why staff wanted to provide you with two options. If the board felt that multiple dwellings should be allowed, the environmental health director provided me with information that says the state requires 40,000 square feet if you're in a state mandated watershed, which is over half of our county. So we felt that there should be some language to protect the homeowner to say that, well, if you're going to have multiple homes, to go ahead and meet the 40,000 since the majority of properties have septic systems.
What happens if we take no action at all on this?
So then you leave it up to me to make an interpretation. And that was my sole goal in coming here tonight, is so it can be clear so that the homeowner who's sitting at home can look in the ordinance and figure out if they can have another home on their property or not. So it's not just vague for staff, but it's vague for the residents of the county.
So we changed this, I don't know, some years ago. I mean, it hadn't been that many. So ever since then,
Staff has still been enforcing one principal dwelling.
option A.
Yes, based off the definitions in the definition section. And as I went over with the attorney, it wasn't super clear. There's a definition of a principal building and a definition of an accessory, and the accessory alludes to that there's only one principal, but I felt like it wasn't clear language, and if staff is confused, then the public might be confused, and that's why we just wanted something clear so that we can hand to people so everyone's easily understands it. And that's why we've also presented two options, which we don't normally do.
So under option A, let's say you have a 5-acre lot, and getting back to the accessory buildings, what we had talked about in the past, if you had the principal dwelling and you had an accessory building, but the accessory building was a single wide that was on the property, not hooked up, no sewer, no water, and it's just storage that they have, how would that affect?
Existing, it wouldn't affect. Now, if you came in and wanted to put a new manufactured home on the property on the 5 acres,
Okay.
then you would need under option A to subdivide that 5 acres somehow into an acre.
But all that is grandfathered in?
Yes.
Okay.
People who have it now are grandfathered in, but
Yes,
we change
yes.
this today. If I come tomorrow and want to go buy me one of those little mobile office units to put on my property and store stuff in it, like we went out there, that house, they were storing church stuff in that old trailer. Wasn't hooked up or anything, but planning had an issue with that, and that's why we changed this for one part of it. That we were being told that planning was calling well houses an accessory building, when we know that's a necessity, not an accessory. So I hate to, we all know when you play this text amendment game, you start having
unintended consequences.
Right.
And I am not really in favor of adding more hoops to jump through, especially when all it costs for me is paying someone to come draw a line. So I don't know.
And planning staff in no way, shape, or form wants to regulate accessory structures or well houses. This planning director does not consider a well house an accessory structure.
This one, but you won't be here.
True, but you can have 15 accessory structures as it's currently written, and I think I signed off on a permit a couple weeks ago where they came in for like their 5th shed. We're not proposing to change accessory structures in any shape or form. We just want to make it clear on principal dwellings, and if you want people to be able to have multiple and not jump through the hoop of hiring a surveyor, that's why we presented with an option B, so that they could do that, but it's very clear when they read it.
So why would a garage apartment be considered an accessory dwelling versus
So garage apartments are actually called out right now as a separate use in the zoning ordinance. And you see that in some jurisdictions. However, going forward, if you were to decide that people should be able to have as many residences as they want, I doubt that people would come in and call it a garage apartment. They would probably just say, this is going to be my 2nd dwelling or my 3rd dwelling.
mother-in-law dwelling?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Are there any further questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes have it. Public hearing is closed. Item number 13, consideration to grant or deny text amendment request by planning staff to amend section 60-6. I'm gonna start this one out. I'm not in favor of changing this. I think as long as we have individuals in our county that wanna put additional facilities on their property, as long as they are held accountable for the number of setbacks and the number of septic uses, whether it be a 5-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or whatever, as long as they're meeting the state mandated guidelines for septic systems, I don't see where we should have any hearing into that. But that's Tracy's personal opinion. I'll entertain any further comments.
I'm not in favor of changing it, but the only reason I'm willing to change it to option B is because the interpretation currently right now is option A.
That's right.
So if we do nothing, they're gonna continue saying one, you know, so that's my only concern.
I'll leave it. Let them interpret it as option A, because you're getting into this situation, because you know you already got the 40,000 square foot on the watershed, so what you're doing, you're not changing. No matter what you approve, you're not really changing it on the south end of the county. It's still gonna be 40,000 square feet, whether you want it to be or you don't want it to be. It's the state water, it's the state Drinking Water Act requirements. It's not the planning department or somebody in Raleigh just picked that out. That was done in the, I believe it was in 1968. So it's been that way for years on the south end of the county. All you're gonna change, if you actually change that, is what you're doing on the other end of the county. Because she still can't issue a permit for it, or she can, but the health department's not gonna issue one for it if it's under 40,000 square feet for well and sewer system. And there's a whole different set of rules that apply if they got water and sewer. That's a whole different ball game then. You know, we're not addressing that. We're just addressing the lot with a well and sewer system. Am I correct?
Correct. Well, actually, the text in option B says to meet the minimum requirements. So city water and sewer does have different minimum lot
Right.
requirements.
That's fine.
So that's the second bullet under option B, additional single-family detached dwellings.
Yes.
That's what it speaks to. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm reluctant to enter into this because it's really a policy issue, and I try very hard not to involve myself in your policy issues. It seems to me that option B allows what I've heard some of you say you wanted to happen. That is, if you had a 10-acre site and you could put 3 houses on there and comply with the watershed requirements and the health requirements, you could put 3 or 4 or ever how many you wanted to under option B, so long as they complied with the watershed and the basic water and sewer rules. If you leave it like it is, the planning staff is currently interpreting that example I just gave of 10 acres that you could put 3 or 4 on if it met the rules, that you could put 1. Just to clarify, it seems that your discussion was you wanted maximum ability of the homeowner or the property owner to do what they wanted to. Option B, I think, would give maximum options to the property owner. Planning staff should correct my planning analysis.
Let me point something out now. Under the, Janet's in here, but under the rule, you've got to have a 40,000 square foot lot cut off. You cannot just go out there and put it on 40,000 square foot piece of property out here and say, okay, I've got what 100 and something thousand square feet of property, and you're gonna put 3 mobile homes on it and not cut it off, because the watershed rules require that 40,000 square foot be cut off, and it tells you whether you can include the road right away or you can't. So it's got to be cut off on the watershed side. Now, you may not have to cut it off on the other end of the county, but on the drinking water supply, you do.
Staff's got it.
And Janet may correct me, but I spoke with Kelly today, and Kelly said it does not need to be subdivided in the watershed. As long as you have.
That's not what the state has always told us, and I've been in it for a long time. They told us it had to be a plat showing that you had 40,000 square feet and it had to be cut off. We've been doing that for years.
And I think that's also because we've been enforcing the one principal dwelling per parcel. But I spoke with Kelly today, and he made me the copy of the general statutes. And I'm just going off what Kelly said because I'm not an environmental health scientist. But he said from an environmental health standpoint that you could have multiple dwellings as long as each one.
Several years ago, Mr. Chairman, there was a squabble about this in this county right here because they went back and were trying to make them, said that the lots were didn't comply with the rules, and I can't remember whether they said they were not allowing them to count to the center of the road, which if you pay tax on it, if you got survey line goes to the center of the road, this road may have an easement through there, but you pay tax on it. So there was a squabble about that, but the state said that it had to be cut off at that time. Somebody out of the Attorney General's office now, I don't know where you can go back and find it, but I may be proven completely wrong, but I don't believe so, because it was a big squabble about it.
So we changed this a few years ago. We had an issue to where my understanding is the previous administration said somebody couldn't have something, which was an old trailer not hooked up to anything, that they were using for storage for church items and whatnot. So we went through and we changed this, and I guess our interpretation was clear, and they kind of left them alone. So if we go back and we change this today, let's say to option A, you're saying everybody back then is grandfathered in, but everybody coming forward will have to comply. And so the issue I have with that is I'm going to go and say, well, Jimmy's got one, why can't I have one? And I'm just 2 lots down the road. And so why can't we do nothing but make clear to what our interpretation is?
I'll just say it makes it a very difficult job as administrator of the zoning ordinance. And I'm sure most of you can appreciate that if you walk into somewhere and I could clearly point out what you can do and can't do with your property, you'd clearly like to be able to read it. And that's why we came up with the option B, so that it's basically you can have multiple dwellings. So that if someone wants to have 2 or 3 or 4, just meeting the minimum lot size and the setbacks for it. We just really want clear language because, you know, it may be that if the board votes against both of them and I'm left enforcing option A, it could be that the previous director or the next director enforces option B and it changes. So whereas if you have clear text, that just works best for
I'm going to say one more thing and then I'm going to try to shut up. One more thing I want to point out is you can go out there on that 3-acre lot and you get your 40,000 square foot lot and you don't have any, you got the whole thing, and so you're going to you got a dwelling on there with a well and a sewer system. Tracy goes out there and he says, okay, Jimmy, I want to put one there. I say, okay, you put one here. So he puts his over here and he's got a dwelling over here. Well, somewhere Kyle owns a lot, so he's going to let me and Tracy put this on here and we got it on here. Then something happens and he decides to cut it off. Okay, what if he cuts it off when he starts cutting it off because it was not cut off previously? Wasn't pre-established where nothing was that. First thing you know, you're going to have somebody out there with no well and no sewer system. You're going to run into all kinds of situations where if you already had the lot determined beforehand, you take care, you remedy all of those problems. You're setting yourself up for problems down the road. I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that if a person's going to put a dwelling out here, they need it on a lot. And I know that makes people have to do extra stuff. I've had to do it. I had to cut stuff off down there on the farm because you were putting a dwelling on it. But I don't care what size the lot is. Once it goes over 40,000 square feet, it can be 10 acres. But if you cut your lot off, then you cover these problems down the road that what you're doing is creating them. Doing this. I understand where she's coming from. She needs something. I think if you stay with A like they're interpreting it now, then you're going to keep yourself from having to deal with a whole lot of problems down the road. But there ought to be some way that if you're putting a dwelling on a piece of property out there, that you are sure the piece of property goes with the dwelling. Because you're going to get caught with, because you're going to property line any kind of way if you own the property. If I own the property, I might be told I don't need to do it. Okay, I run the property line across here and I cut the sewer system off. All of a sudden it don't end up on the property with the dwelling. Ever who ends up with this property can make you take it off. And I'm just pointing this out, that I've dealt with it for a long time, and it looks simple sometimes, but you made a real good statement a while ago. Sometimes your unintended consequences can hurt you worse than you really realize that they can. The way they're interpreting it, if you not, my suggestion, if you really don't want to, if you really want option B, but you see where it can cause you a problem down the road, is leave it where it's at.
You know, there's always an appeal process. You know, I understand exactly where you're coming from. You want to make your job easier. I have no problem when you come before the board and trying to, you know, give more clarification on it. But if you tell a resident they can't do something, there's a process. Who do they go to if they disagree with your decision? They can either go to the planning board or ultimately they'll come here. And that's why we changed it a few years ago, because we had residents that we personally went out there and saw the issue for ourselves, and we made a decision on it ourselves. Not that it was a huge problem. It was just a few residents, but again, anytime, what Jimmy was saying, anytime that we tweak something, it may be a little snowball, but it could end up being an avalanche, unattended by us, that future boards have to deal with. So, and I appreciate you coming before the board, but I would have to say I would leave be hands off and leave this alone. And I would put that in form of a motion.
To the hands of her interpretation, which is option A.
Yes, in the hands of her interpretation. And if
you get an appeal, where does it come to? Board of Adjustments or here?
Board of Adjustment, and you can always say, talk to the Board of County Commissioners. They're the ones who decided this and gave you. Oh, and put it in our plate. That's what we get paid the big bucks for here.
All of what Jimmy was talking about with the watershed, we can't trump that anyway.
The state regulation.
That's already. So what we're talking about is the area that it's not in that Falls News watershed. Did you make a motion?
I made my motion.
I'll make a substitute motion to approve option B.
Okay, we have a substitute motion on the table. Is there any discussion?
Mainly because I don't want to leave the interpretation of A out there.
All right. All in favor of the substitute motion to go with option B, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
All right, substitute motion does not pass. All in favor of the original motion, which is option A, please is there any further discussion?
I think we've had it.
Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. All right.
You can show hands on that.
Ayes?
4.
Nays?
And what was that first motion again, so I can get it, just to
To
leave
go
the
with
text as it's written?
Leave it alone.
You said to go with option A. I thought his was to leave it as it's written. That's what I want to clarify.
Yeah.
When he did the clarity, he said is to go with option A, that she doesn't have to do.
My substitute motion was
His
option B.
substitute was B, and ours was to leave it as it is.
Mine was to leave it as
Leave
is.
Okay.
Yeah, I say I made my motion because I didn't want to leave it to A for Lord to interpret. I'm sorry.
All right. One more thing out of the way. Informal comments. Do we have any? We had no one that signed up. Item number 14, discussion or adjustment of approval of the consent agenda. Was there any
I was going to say,
changes
take a snapshot of that.
in the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. New business, item number 15, additional mental health funding. Civil Tate.
Good evening. This year, for the first time, Cardinal has refunded the funds that we gave to them as part of our maintenance of effort, which is what's required by the county to fund mental health programs. We had a refund of approximately $38,000. And staff has worked with the Sheriff's Office and EMS and Health Department, court system, and attended quite a few community group meetings to develop a recommendation on how to spend these extra funds. which are dedicated to mental health services. You see before you in your packet the list of recommended projects. This is again one-time funding. We possibly will have a much smaller refund next year, but I think this is probably a one-time. We will have such a large refund from Cardinal. So we tried to look for projects that just needed one-time funding. The biggest amount of funding is.
Drug court's not one time.
That's true. However,
it is in this.
However, I believe his funding requests vary year to year. So I considered it a one-time request for this amount of money. Drug court is by far the largest funding recommendation that you have before you for $20,000. The other ones are relatively small. We are requesting $3,500 for additional naloxone kits. Cardinal gave us 12 kits, but that doesn't give us enough for each of our first responders to have a kit. So this funding would enable all of our first responders to have a kit. The safe room at the hospital is very interested in this, and all of our public safety folks are very interested in having a safe room at the hospital.
What is that?
That is a room where when someone is having a mental health crisis, they can be safe. They can be safely contained in that room.
Where do those people go now?
That's a good question.
Back to the jail.
It's basically a standard room, and either a social worker or a law enforcement officer has to sit with them the entire time because they cannot be left. Sometimes they are chained to handcuffed to a chair in the lobby until a bed is available. That's a really disastrous situation, so this provides a special room for them to go.
Are they going to our hospital?
The mental health patients?
Mm-hmm.
I guess in some instances they are.
In some instances they are. It just depends on the availability of the law enforcement officer and the other items on their plate that night.
Doug's gone too, huh? So we don't.
Janet can maybe
just
speak to
wondering
it.
if they're continuously being deferred to Durham.
We tried to get them into Durham because they have available
No,
safe rooms
when
there.
we have people that need to go, we're being told from Person Memorial that they don't have beds or they don't have this. We have to send people to Durham anyway. I just wanted to know if that was still somewhat the
Some
case.
places will send them, if they're mental health, you send them a whole lot farther than that.
That is correct. Sometimes
That's
Durham.
that's established as the
I know.
issue. I'm just saying
Right.
our initial call is,
Yeah.
you want to take somebody in an ambulance over here to Person Memorial. My understanding is a lot of times we're being told that we need to go to Durham, that they don't have space, they don't have room, they don't have staff.
That is true.
That's
That is true. I don't know, Janet, if you had insight on that. You seemed like you wanted to address that.
Usually the protocol is that they do go to the emergency department here, and then they then leave this facility and go to other facilities. But in the meantime, either a social worker or law enforcement has to stay with them until they are moved elsewhere.
The next item is drop boxes at pharmacies. This would be similar to what's at the sheriff's office, where you can drop off prescription drugs. So this would allow for various pharmacies in the county to have drop boxes for their customers to drop off prescription drugs. And finally, the Red Ribbon campaign. This is an awareness program, and the schools have expressed some interest. There were 3 schools that wanted to participate in this, and this is, would purchase things like the ribbons for the students to wear, and posters, and potentially prizes for contest. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So the only thing I would say is, given all what we've heard here lately about substance abuse and everything going on not only in our county but across the nation, and given that the National Association of Counties has a Stepping Up program that strictly addresses mental health issues in the jail, then I might would have probably preferred to investigate some of those things before we just came up with a list of how to spend it.
Okay,
I mean,
I'd be happy to
if I could take $8,000 and put it in some type of substance abuse program that's gonna help people in the county, I think I'm fine with not having drop-off places at the pharmacies here in the county. I mean, you know,
Okay.
so I'm just.
I did speak with
We
the.
would've had a little input into maybe
Sure.
some
Yeah.
use of this $38,000.
Yeah, this is just a recommendation. You are welcome to make changes, and if you direct me to speak with the sheriff about looking into programs in the jail, I'd be happy to do that. I will say that I have spoken with the sheriff extensively about this, and the programs in the jail that we have discussed, unfortunately, require recurring funds because it requires having a staff person.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but this could fund a pilot, and we could see if it's worth
Yeah.
funding in the future.
Okay.
I mean, if he got no repeat offenders, or we got people that's, whatever.
Yep.
But we got a problem in the county, and we got $38,000 came back from mental health. That seems like an area to maybe try to use it for some type of pilot program to see if we can see some benefits of it. I see more bang in my buck for that than I do a safe room at the hospital and drop-off boxes at the pharmacy.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just one commissioner, that's me.
No, I'll bring it back to you all with a recommendation for how to handle mental health issues in the jail. That's not a problem.
Is that all right? Let us bring it back next meeting.
Any further comments?
Thanks.
So our recommendation from staff is to bring it back with more options. Item number 16, new North Carolina statutes requiring changes to the Person County Animal Services Ordinance. Mr. Shaw.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening, ladies. I believe all the work has been done. This is a general statute, and it had to change our ordinance. So I see that you all have got the ordinance changed, and you see what's done. Basically, we went to a website, because this new rabies pendinium, did I say that right? I have trouble saying that word.
Compendium.
There you go. Okay. It's more lenient by far than what our old law was. And it has a lot of paperwork to it, a lot of pages. So basically what I'm asking is to go forward with the changes that I'm presenting tonight. My staff look forward to learning and enforcing this new law. I believe there'll be many challenges to it, and we'll work through it. Do y'all have any questions? I've made no changes. This is all out of the state. It's a state law.
I just want to attest that the Animal Services Board and Ron and his staff have put a lot of time and thought into all of this. We've had multiple discussions on it, and I apologize for not being able to be there when it was finally finished, but there was a lot of good discussion about different parts of this bill, and they rolled it over and over to see if there was anything that we didn't need in Person County, so I can attest that they worked on it real hard.
Move for approval.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks, Ron.
As always, appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Item number 17, sale of surplus property. Background information, the Board of Commissioners approved the resolution to begin the upset bid process for the old hotel property and the old senior center property. A public notice of sale was advertised in the Courier Times on September 16, 2017. Bids were due September the 25th, 2017 at 5 p.m. No new bids were received for the old hotel property, so the highest initial bidder may purchase the property. John Dixon of Roxborough submitted the highest final offer of $22,500. The Board of Commissioners has the right to reject bids at any time. However, should the board decide to move forward with the sale of the old hotel property, the clerk and county attorney can complete the purchasing process. The old senior center property received two upset bids, one for $750 and the other for $3,000. A new notice of sale will be published in the Courier Times, which was Saturday the 30th. The new notice will require a minimum bid of $3,200 due on October the 9th at 5 p.m. to the Clerk of Board of Commissioners, and recommendation to authorize the chairman to sign the appropriate documents for the sale of the old hotel property. In full disclosure, Mr. John Dixon is my father-in-law, and I've discussed this with Ron Aycock concerning conflicts of interest, and I would like for him to cover that before we move forward, please.
The chairman has indicated to me that he would like not to vote on this issue. I've researched the statutes and have told him he is not authorized to fail to vote, because the law requires commissioners to vote on issues unless there is a personal financial interest. A relative having a financial interest is not a personal financial interest. So even though the chairman desires to express to you his discomfort with voting, the law requires him to vote.
Thank you. So with that on the board, the old senior center is back up for bid, and we're open for discussion on what the board would like to do with the old hotel property.
What's the tax value of that?
If I remember correctly, the tax value was somewhere around 41 or 44,000 for the old
hotel. Yes, it was significant. Yeah, this is.
It's over 40,000.
Yeah, it was around there.
41 or 42,000.
And that's the vacant property.
That's right.
Correct.
The old senior center was 200 something.
It was what?
It was like 200,000.
Golly. Oh, I'm just pointing that out because I noticed, you know, we got some activity down in that area now. Isn't that where the restaurant's at and other things are going on down there?
Okay.
And, you know, I don't know whether it's really wise for the county to be thinking about cutting this stuff loose too quick or not.
Again, Mr. Chairman and board, the law says that you are authorized but not required to sell. If you do sell, procedures go through. You can reject any sale if the board wants to. It's up to y'all.
Let's say we sell it at this price, and next year came to the Board of Adjustment saying, hey, it ain't worth $40,000, I only paid 22, and you accepted that price. Is that an argument to maybe lower the value or anything like that?
We've heard.
on board?
Yes.
Well, I said Board of Adjustment, yeah, Board of
Board of
Equalization.
VNR.
Yeah, Board of VNR.
Yes, that would be an argument that could be made before the Board of VNR. This is not valued correctly because of a recent sale, that particular sale. They're not compelled to accept that argument because in fact, a forced judicial sale like this typically is thrown out of the comparisons when you do valuation because it's not a total.
The actual sale of the property cannot be in consideration for when it comes to an adjustment.
That is correct.
But I'm just pointing out, I'm wondering if we're fixing to get rid of something we may wish we hadn't got rid of, particularly the vacant property. Now, I don't know what we got to do with the old senior center. We may end up costing us what the tax value is to tear the thing down if we're going to have to tear it down. Has it been condemned to be torn down?
It's not been condemned to be torn down. It's been condemned for occupancy. Occupancy.
But it didn't say it was a hazard at this point.
It can be used for storage, but you're not allowed to have people occupying the building.
The city should have bought it then. The city should be.
The city should have been.
If they want to do something up there with it, I'm inclined to get rid of it.
We ask them if they want.
Which one? Both of them or one of them?
Well, you ain't got to bid up.
No.
You actually go back on the old senior center building. We just talking about the hotel, the vacant lot right now, right?
Correct. I can't find
Yeah.
property value on my
What
stuff.
we want to do with it? I can't get him to vote for nothing. I just said him. I ain't say which one.
You say him or them?
I just said him. I only count to 3. Get rid of it. I
It's 0.49 acres and tax value
Here we go.
is 39.
And new GIS got you, huh?
39,911. 39,911. So you're about 17,000 off.
Motion
To accept.
Motion to accept the bid.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to accept the bid. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All
No.
opposed? 4-1. Chairman's report at this time, other than thanking you guys for putting up with me on a cell phone during the last meeting, and thanking Vice Chairman Powell for covering for me, and apologizing for not calling ahead of time. I had a lot of things on my plate and just forgot about it.
You ain't got to call. That's why he's vice chair.
Thank y'all.
Just got to be ready.
Thank y'all for covering for me during the last meeting and allowing me to call in and be a part of the meeting. But that's about all I have. Manager's report.
No report this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Jeffers.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Clayton.
Had the Carter annual banquet last Thursday. I gave all of y'all a copy of the annual report. If you got any questions about it, I'll be glad to try to answer them. It was a pretty good turnout there. I think I had probably a couple of hundred people.
Commissioner
And,
Just.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you done?
I was going to mention that last Wednesday I went to the Nanotechnology Conference in Greensboro. That was quite interesting. If you've never been up there where UNC Greensboro and A&T have got their technology school out on this side. If you've never been to that, you need to make a trip and go. It's quite enlightening. I had been before, but it was kind of refreshing to go back again and look at what they're doing up there on the cutting edge of technology.
Commissioner for you.
I'm done.
Okay. Just want to congratulate the museum on having a terrific celebration of Person County's 225th anniversary, and I thought it was a good event and enjoyed by all.
Commissioner Pike.
No, I'd just like to echo those sentiments on the museum and celebration that they put on. It was quite a show and well represented by especially the Long family, but the history of Person County. Great event. That's it.
All right. I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session per general statute 143-318.1185 to establish or to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken on or behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease with the following individuals permitted to attend: County Manager Heidi York, Clerk to the Board Brenda Reeves, County Attorney Ron Aycock, and Assistant County Manager Sybil Tate.
So moved.
All in favor of going into closed session, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Let's take on police commissioner.